Many SADC heads of state came through and witnessed that beautiful moment, as we have also seen His Excellency giving his speech of acceptance, and he spoke about so many issues that we are going to be discussing further on this particular live broadcast. Currently in Mount Upton, they are closed door sessions where the heads of state are getting into various deliberations. Why they are here, they are also discussing that. In the media, like we have become used to, has been asked to excuse the heads of state.
Mbasambase ukiakia vanotipa product inoshanda semaonera muri kuita matomatoes edu kuti hatina doubt, hamuna tuta, hamuna zvirwere zvakawanda. Tiri kushanda nekurima center zvakanaka, ticharamba tichisapota iyo ichitisapota. Kune varimi vese vanoda kuenda mberi ngavashande nekurima center number 1. Kushanda nekurima
si ijuva igurwa nakasa. Ijuva rakamirwa navanhu vose. Umutungamiri weshango Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa nasi vagadzwa kuva ungari chibula wegubungano ali Southern African Development Community SADC kuva kale ungari chibula vetungamira kale kwegore rimwe mpera tiringa ien kulebereka ivo vetambula mawi valebereka zolokosha zinoshanganisa zunangwa zogubungano liye SADC kusimatija bufumi kubona kuti kuvanhu kugadzikana pomwe mpira nokulijana kwamashango ali mingu je SADC.
In his acceptance speech, like you're saying, that we have come to expect His Excellency to speak in terms of what his country is doing and how that feeds also to the SADC region, the issues around innovation, industrialization of the bloc. And just like he has been saying in these precursor meetings, including the public lecture that took place at the University of Zimbabwe, he explained that we need to transform our educational sector to ensure that the drive now is on industrializing our SADC region, to ensure that our education is producing more employers, more innovators, more than previously. We are focusing on producing those who are good to be employed, and also to focus on maybe reproducing what they would have learned from the lecture. So the idea, we're looking at where SADC is going, we need to produce, sell among themselves, increase trade, increase collaboration, so that the bloc develops as a unitary association.
Ian njo kulma kwakho njalo Ian nxasikhangela umongameli wakwela Angola Mnumzana João Lourenço ukhulumile ngaphambilini kokunikeza isicoco umongameli welizwe. Ukhulumile njalo wathi amazwe angamalunga eSADC kumele azenze amhlophe bezichayela ihlombe ngomsebenzi osuthe waphathwa kusukela lapho okwasungulwa khona inhlanganiso yeSADC. Ekhuluma sithi okwathesi kumele kuthuthukiswe imisebenzi, kuthuthukiswe enzamankampani ukuze kusetshenziswe ubungcwethi ekuletheni impumelelo kwezenotho kumazwekazi angaphansi kwenhlanganiso yeSADC. Sikhangela njalo ngemisebenzi ephathelane lo ukukhuthaza abasakhulayo. Ukhulumile njalo Ian ukuthi ngaphambilini kwalomhlangano umongameli welizwe Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa waqhuba izifundo public lecture e-University of Zimbabwe ekhuthaza abasakhulayo ukuthi babe yibo abokhokhela indaba zokuthuthukisa ama-industry. Bekhuluma njalo ngenhlelo ezingaphathwa ngabasakhulayo ukuthi bathuthukise inotho, bethuthukisa imichina yakulezi insuku. Sikhangela njalo indikimba yalomhlangano ukuthi kukhuthazwe ukusebenziswa kobungcwethi ikakhulu ekuthuthukiseni as a science kanye lama industry in.
Rightfully said that His Excellency spoke about the significance of how the education sector should be transformative, and looking at Zimbabwe Education 5.0, the famous heritage-based education, which is focusing more on producing. And we have seen the innovation hubs being constructed around our tertiary institutions. We have also witnessed some of more developments coming through from these tertiary institutions, including the production of number plates that we haven't really been able to do so locally. One of the local universities is doing so, and His Excellency is saying this is the trajectory that we do want these universities to be going towards. And ultimately, if the region is on a similar trajectory, it really plays a key role in terms of ensuring that there is a same direction that these countries are moving towards. And now to talk about issues around drought, we know climate change has actually resulted as to be where we are today. The El Nino induced droughts, and His Excellency is saying we need to work together as a region to ensure that we do come up with solutions which are homegrown and focusing on how best to develop climate-proof agriculture here in Zimbabwe and other regions within, and other countries within the SADC region, to ensure that we all move on the same wavelength.
Yebo Ian, njengokutsho kwakho usithi umongameli ukhuluma ngezomiso ezifana le El Nino ezilethwe yi-El Nino okungenziwa ilizwe leZimbabwe. Ilizwe leZimbabwe lona likhanya liqhubekela phambili lifaka imizamo yokuthi lingalwisa njani isomiso esifana lesi. Sikhangela ukulima kuthelezelwa, konke lokhu kuyangena kunjongo ye-SADC yokuthi amazwekazi wonke angaphansi kwenhlanganiso ye-SADC ukumele enelise ukuzimela wodwa. Njengokutsho kukamongameli weAngola umnumzana Lorenzo ukhulumile wathi yena kwezombusazwe sesenelise ukuzimela, njalo wonke esikwenzayo sesenelise ukuzimela. Okhathesi kumele senelise ukuthuthukisa indlela esiqhuba ngayo imisebenzi yethu, indlela esiqhuba ngayo ezama-industry. Sikhuluma mhla ka-28 Ntulikazi kwaqhutshwa njalo umhlangano iviki ekhangela ngokuqhuba kwama-industry. Konke lokhu kuveza ukuthi amazonke ase-SADC alembali lamatshe aligugu alawo. Okuqakathekileyo ukuthi amatshe lawo asetshenziswe ukuthi athuthukise inotho yamazwe e-Afrika ikakhulu kumkhono we-SADC.
And if you are just joining us, this is the live broadcast of the 44th SADC Heads of Summit that is taking place currently in Mount Upton. And as we speak, the heads of state are in a closed door sessions as they are taking to play, as they are deliberating on various issues. And later on, we'll be speaking to political analysts to further to understand the meaning of what is actually taking place today, the taking over of chairmanship by Zimbabwe. As we have seen His Excellency taking on that chairmanship graciously, people coming through and celebrating. We have seen more congratulatory messages coming through right here on a ZBC TV. And of course, Zimbabwe, the beauty of it will never stop to amaze us. And we do get some more clips which showcase how beautiful is this land, especially for the visitors who have come through for this SADC Summit. And now, let's take a look at some of the beautiful places and let's get straight to see what we call Kuimbashiri.
When I was a little boy of only 12 years old, I came to Lake Chivero for the first time. And when I looked at the lake and I saw the masasa trees, my father said, "Look how beautiful this place is." Unbeknown to me, many years later, back in 1990, I bought this property. And I bought it originally just for me, for my birds, because I had a lot of injured birds, and also for my animals. And it took me about a year or two to work out that I can't live here as a selfish man, and I want to share the beauty of Zimbabwe with other people. And that's when I decided to build a bird park, because of my passion for birds and for creation. And when you're sitting here and you're looking out at the lake and you see the blue sky and the blue water, the green trees and the grass, it just makes you feel good. And I always said that Kuimbashiri needs to reflect Zimbabwe. We don't want to come to a place in Zimbabwe and it looks like New York City or some other place, Dubai or something. This has got to reflect some. And I think we've achieved that, because the number of people who come here now for many, many years, over 30 years, they come out. If they're living overseas, they come here every single year to see if everything's still going and just to feel good. Then they can go back to their countries, wherever they live, and recharged and look forward to coming back home the following year. But then also we get our local people who are coming out, who enjoy just what Zimbabwe's got to offer. And we've got so much. And it's stuff that God gave us for free. He gave us the warmth, He gave us the trees, the grass, nice food, pleasant sounds of birds singing. And that's where the name Kuimbashiri came from. It means Kuimba, means singing, birds, but some people translate it as home of birds. Either way, I'm happy with that.
We are here at Kuimbashiri. We got some parrots here. originally they are not here from Zimbabwe, but we got them here. These ones are African grey parrots. Some of them they do talk, and they are friendly as well. And these ones, the African grey parrots, they are the intelligent parrot of all the parrots. These parrots. And this one is a Goffin cockatoo. This one is Sylvester, and this one I forgot the name. But they are friendly, so that even if you want to come and play with them, you can just play. These ones, they do copy like 180 words. These ones. So they can say them back.
Hello.
This one here is Floyd. So Floyd is a medium sulfur crested. So parrots basically they are not from Zimbabwe originally. So in Zimbabwe we only have a few types of parrots. So here we have medium sulfur, right, Floyd, and this one on my shoulder, this one is Reese. So Reese is a Goffin cockatoo.
We're the first orphanage, bird orphanage in Africa to look after local birds. So all our birds here are indigenous. Well, not all of them, but they've come in as orphaned or injured, and other birds that are exotic have come here because of people leaving the country, or the bird becomes aggressive, then they come here and take care of it. We're the only place that has genuine rehabs. Genuine. Everybody else, and whether it's wildlife or whatever, they buy and they trade and they swap. Kuimbashiri has got that moral standing back from 1984 is when I started collecting injured birds and taking care of them.
It's always nice to appreciate different types of creation in different areas, and it's nice to have that here at Kuimbashiri as well. You can expose the birds. And the falcon to me was something with speed, just to see it coming over you and ducking, and it's an amazing experience. Yeah.
We had a bird sighting where we saw them fly, and one of the things that happened was he would swing the chicken around, and then the falcons would come and they would try to get the chicken, and they would miss a few times, but he made them miss. So, but they were very fast, which is interesting.
The owl is fascinating. Yeah. People believe so many things about it, but when you get to know how it's silent and how the ears are quite different for a reason, then you really come to appreciate the creation. So it's a nice place to come and see creation too.
It's a beautiful place for families and quite refreshing. And I enjoyed the bird show, especially the eagle, to see how it hunts on land as well as in the water, the fish eagle.
We take our birds out from the front there and we let them fly free at 4 o'clock in the afternoons, and then they fly free. And the whole idea of that, so we're the first one in Africa to do that as well, was when we're training the birds that they can go back to the wild if they want to, and they do, and that's okay. So when a bird flies off and doesn't come back, people don't say, oh, you've lost it. No, it's gone back to the wild. If they do come back, it's a bonus. Okay, so I've got some birds like our fish eagle, the hongwe. I mean, that's a national bird. And I've had her now 29 years. Can you imagine? Older than most of the people that come here. And that bird, we fly her free, and every day she gets up and she goes off. She'll come and she'll fly, do what she's trained to do. But if she decides, which she did about a month ago, she got up, she went off, and she went for 2 days. And I said to the guys, okay, she's gone, it's okay. We're a little upset because she's very special, But she came back after 2 days and she said, hey, it's hard work to live in the bush. So she came back home, you know, and that's fun. And we got another bird, Twiggy. I've only had her now a year. She was found near Featherston, brought in as people were going to kill her. She's very, very nervous with people because her first contact with people was in a very bad way. They put her in a sack and she came here. So she's still very nervous, but she's beautiful. And then we've got little Oscar the owl, a Zizi. Oscar was going to be killed. They knocked him out the nest and he was on the ground and the people grabbed him, broke the wing. But Oscar flies to people up and down every day and it gets rid of the superstition of Zizi being evil. So that's what people can do. They can come here, they can enjoy themselves. Hopefully they can learn something about birds. Because do you know how many birds we got types of birds we got in Zimbabwe? Over 660 types. Most people can't name 10. Shame. 660 types. Around Chivero, 404 types of birds. It's amazing. So people can come and enjoy that and just get back to nature, which is what we're all designed to do, isn't it?
That is Kuimbashiri, the beauty of Zimbabwe, the reason why more people should come through to Zimbabwe. And talking of that, tourism is one of the conversations in terms of what needs to be done by the SADC region to increase and also increase our value addition within the tourism sector to ensure that our region continues to grow more and more. And then surely I will make sure that the SADC region won't be the same again. And His Excellency, we keep reiterating, is now the SADC chair, as you have seen him taking over the chairmanship. But this morning at the Mount Upton New Parliament building, where he was speaking to various heads of state and assuring them that Zimbabwe will do all it can to support all the regional programs and ensure that the development trajectory will continue under the chairmanship of Zimbabwe. To further unpack what exactly happened this morning, we are now joined by political analyst Abigail Mpambi, who is going to help us unpack what happened, the significance, and what needs to be done by Zimbabwe to consolidate the foundation that has been laid this morning. Abigail, thank you so much for joining us. And big news, 17 August, the biggest day we've all been waiting for. His Excellency is now the chairman of SADC. Maybe start by unpacking that moment. What does it mean to the country? I know I've been asking this question, but now it's here. What exactly does this mean for the country?
Well, first of all, we say congratulations to His Excellency, the President, Comrade Idi Mnangagwa, and Krokoto Amhlope, Zimbabwe. It's a very, very crucial yet moment worth celebrating. And of course, we will be taking responsibility. You noticed that in his acceptance speech, the president has already taken over the chairpersonship, but what he was already talking about is already policy. We already take it as policy. He was already taking responsibility to honor and actually sharing the same responsibility, lobbying and advocating each and every member state to take responsibility to honor the heroines and heroes who, of course, actually laid the foundation of SADC then in 1980 as a coordinating conference then, and which, of course, was later upgraded to the development community, which we have today. It is very, very crucial to, of course, note that the president actually took a vow to say he himself is going to make sure that he's going to uphold and facilitate unity in SADC, constitutionalism, and the rule of law. That actually alone speaks to issues of visiting to critical institutions, not only of SADC, but also zooming into critical institutions of member states to be able to do what we call checks and balance within the systems. You would understand that we've got independent institutions that must actually always run, of course, checking against each other and make sure that we have issues of justice, social protection, etc. being, of course, upheld. So I think even in the institution of SADC itself, such a vow means, of course, a lot. The president also has revisited the issues around the theme itself, issues of industrialization of SADC. He made actually a clarion call to the member states to say we should revisit the issue of making sure that we talk of value addition, beneficiation, and they actually pool our resources together in terms of course, agriculture, mining, and of course, power and energy, to make sure that we collectively, of course, share our strengths and see an industrialized SADC. So you would realize that whatever, I'll repeat, he was already taking is policy. When we say it's policy, we want to believe that as they are now in the closed doors right now, we are now saying how best can they, of course, offer a roadmap to see such policy direction, which of course we are already entrusted at the helm of it as the chairpersonship of such a crucial regional bloc, SADC. We are already entrusted with that responsibility. So we want to see how are we going to deal with issues of climate change. He mentioned that we are already hounded by the drought, El Nino induced drought,
yes,
where we needed to actually work as a collective. You would know that the issues of carbon emissions, the superpowers are already industrialized. Now they will be coming back to say, no, we can't use coal, we can't use this. But if we don't come together as, of course, the nations in the global south, if we don't unite as a SADC, if we don't unite as Africa, we can't win the war. So I think this is why he continued to talk of solidarity, coming together, taking people back to the ethos on why was SADC actually formed. It is an issue of actually sharing the strengths.
Now, you explain clearly in terms of policy, which is, of course, the main reason why we see His Excellency taking over the chairmanship, shaping policy direction, overseeing this process. And let's get back to some of his remarks that he made when he was accepting that chairmanship. He talked about accelerating regional projects, including the cross-border power projects, infrastructural development. He also spoke of issues around climate proofing agriculture. But let's zero in on a cross-border transport system, infrastructure development. What policy do you think needs to be put in place for us to see a well-organized and developed transport infrastructure cutting the entire SADC region?
Yeah, we already have these partitioned borders, which we borrowed, of course, from the Berlin Conference. We can't do much about them now. But I think in terms of trade, we can relax a number of issues across the borders. We have seen, of course, some hints that were coming in from Botswana. At one point, people were really like, oh, is this coming our way? We have got bilateral relations among each of our member states. I think even before we talk of multilateral at the level of SADC, we should begin to relax certain barriers like the issues of these passports, which of course takes a number of costs for individuals who want to trade before we even talk of the tariffs that are involved. I think that we need to begin to see member states encouraging, even at bilateral level as we go to multilateral level, to begin to relax, even if it means crossing the borders with an ID. Like the initiative which we of course saw, we hope it will find its maturity. And of course, Zimbabwe being a landlocked country, maybe we will lead in that commitment also, so that we see ourselves improving such. There is we can't compete. We need to begin also to boost our confidence. We can't compete as SADC members. We need to begin to map on our strengths. What can we trade to Mozambique? What can Mozambique also trade to Malawi? What can we actually in the exchange and see that we benefit? And of course, by so doing, we cut a number of costs. When we are exporting or importing from Europe, There are issues of shipping, there are issues of airfares, there's a lot of things involved. But you may realize that sometimes because of the alignment of the mind, you find yourself wanting the same product from Britain. Meantime, if you look around SADC, you can find it in DRC. So it also speaks to the issues of mindset alignment in terms of commercialization of SADC, in terms of dealing with actually the very trade and the cross-border issues. We need to begin to deal with issues that are haunting us even politically, even issues of security. The xenophobic wave, it actually tempers with the trade. It tempers with the issues of confidence. So I think that even as we are moving forward, certain things needs to be actually clarified. We need to boost confidence among and around the citizens of SADC.
And talking of some of his talking points, His Excellency also reassured that he is well aware and respects the efforts that have been put by the founding fathers of the SADC region and the SADC bloc. And tomorrow we know there will be a visit to the Museum of African Liberation. Talk to me about significance of looking back to find strength to go forward and at least to accelerate development, especially it being anchored on what the founding fathers intended and how far they went.
People who actually have no history or respect for history and inheritance are subject to fail. You would realize that we already appreciate the foundations. Why did we go to war as Africa? Why did we then form such coalitions at international level, so-called international organizations, one being SADC? For us to actually be able to connect the dots and the knots, we must be able to go back to basics. What has been the Nkrumah ideology? What has been the Ubuntu ideology? What actually are the investments that we can actually build upon? We don't need actually to undo what has already been done. So we need to tap into that wisdom, something that we call intergenerational knowledge transfer, intergenerational wisdom, of course, borrowing. So for the moment we begin to do that, we will be able, of course, to do checks and balances. Where are we going wrong? Of course, with the coming in of globalization, with the coming in of innovation and innovation on board, we need, of course, to improve certain things. But we need not to pretend that we are starting from nowhere. This will be the basis of failing. So it's very, very crucial that even we are already having the museum, African Museum, of course, here in Zimbabwe. It looks like a very good coincidence that SADC is being hosted here at a time when this big initiative is also coming from here.
And it is located close to the National Heroes
Oh, yes, I think it's strategic. Whoever did that, of course, I think it's very, very strategic. I think we have got actually a jewel of knowledge. We need to tap from that. Without that, for as long as we don't recognize such, we are bound to fail.
And then earlier on you made reference to the El Nino-induced droughts, and His Excellency also in his remarks, you're trying to break down all that he said, some of the key points, and he spoke of the full operationalization of the SADC Humanitarian and Emergency Center to ensure that all these disasters, at least there is a center where all things can be referred to cater for the disasters that can hit one or two or other countries within the regional bloc to ensure that we are all catered for. Talk of the 2019, we saw the cyclone Idai hitting largely Mozambique and also Zimbabwe. We've also seen the COVID-19 coming through. Now it is the El Nino-induced droughts. To have this humanitarian center, how key is it in terms of ensuring that the relief that is needed can be provided and resource can be channeled towards that?
What is of importance, the idea is correct, is to have the right institutions. And I think SADC can facilitate that. And with the riches that we have as SADC countries, I think we need to pool resources together to such. If we find ourselves failing to do so, then we will always be at the mercy of others. Each time we have a problem, want to look west or east. That actually is a big problem. This is when, of course, you find ourselves having no power to determine how we want things to move, because he who funds controls. So for us, we need to talk about the independence even of funding SADC as an institution. It is disturbing if you find that institutions at African Union level, institutions at SADC, in some way, you find them being funded. Of course, it's good to be generous, European Union funding, this one funding, but it's not very, very healthy. So I even think that it's not only about humanitarian. While this humanitarian is urgent, we need to revisit even issues of security.
Right.
So we actually need to pull our resources together. We need to first of all build confidence that yes, we can do it. Zimbabwe has been exemplary. We managed even to revamp the face of Zimbabwe ahead of this SADC. Even before, we did a lot of developments. So I think Zimbabwe can actually take advantage at the helm of this and lecture and lead the way to say yes, it's possible. Let us do it this way. In the midst of sanctions, economic targeted sanctions on Zimbabwe, we still managed to do something that I'm sure even the SADC delegates are actually feeling the warm welcome in Zimbabwe in the midst of these sanctions. So I think that we can do it as SADC, we can do it as the people of the Global South, we are able to do it as the citizens of SADC. All we need, if we are to do that, is to make sure that we put strong institutions, of course, to guard against some illicit flows, of course. We also need to deal with the issues of checks and balances so that we don't waste time chasing people again whom we trusted to keep the very same basket funding, if I may call it. But we really need that not only on humanitarian, but also when dealing with a number of key issues that may hound us. Talk of security today. We may need to revisit, to have the issues of a SADC troop. We should be able at least to have a standby troop. Should we have issues that are hounding us, should the issues of Cabo Delgado and the issues happening in DRC continue, of course, to expand, even at the present day status, we must be able to revisit such a troop that is well resourced, that is well on standby, that is well energized. But for us to begin now to say, how can you help us? We begin to run away with to run around with a begging power. We don't need that, particularly on issues of security, because this is sovereign. We are talking about issues of sovereignty, territorial integrity. How do you then ask from the next door? What if the next door is the very same enemy? So those are issues of revisiting the structures, sensitive structures and infrastructure of SADC and of course of member states. Yes.
Well explained. Talking of development, yes, of course, we do want to see the nation of Zimbabwe developing and ultimately the SADC region developing as we celebrate His Excellency taking over the chairmanship of the regional bloc. And of course, now we will continue with the conversation, but we also need to understand more and more of some of these initiatives happening. And now let's get to see a clip of the CEO of the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, what they have to say about development and how Zimbabwe is developing. Let's get to see that.
Zimbabwe, a nation reborn, is extending its arms to the Southern African Development Community, SADC. As the country gears up for the SADC Summit, the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency, ZIDA, stands ready to guide the investment journey. Mr. Chinamo sheds light on promising sectors for regional investors.
When ZIDA was formed, the first thing that was established was the One-Stop Investment Services Center. So this is one place here at ZIDA where an investor can come and be assisted in registering their company, getting a tax clearance, and even opening a bank account. Should they want permits to engage in other activities, say mining or construction or other permits that a normal business would require, could be, all of that is facilitated from here. So as we evolved, as we wanted to make that journey for the investor much easier, what we then did starting last year was we then automated a lot of our processes to the extent now that an investor can start and finish the process of registering their investment in Zimbabwe and starting to invest in Zimbabwe. All of that can be done online on our online portal, our platform. The next step for us, I think, is just to make sure that even the permits that they require beyond ZIDA to actually start their projects or their businesses can also be done seamlessly like that.
Beyond streamlining processes, Mr. Chinamo shares ZIDA's efforts to attract investors.
I think a lot of investors consider the ease of doing business in a country very important. So we've reduced quite considerably the amount of time it takes an investor to set up a company. So if you want to register a company in Zimbabwe right now, with ZIDA, that can be done in less than 2 days. You will get all your paperwork done and then everything. We also aim that once an investor has got those founding documents sorted out, we aim to establish that investor within 90 days. By establishing, we mean to say that all the necessary paperwork for them to start their businesses should be complete within 90 days.
Mr. Chinamo elaborates on ZIDA's aftercare support.
Obviously, having investment opportunities is one thing. I mean, you could have the best resources, the best skills, and so forth. But as long as the environment itself is not conducive to an investor, a lot of investors may shy away from that. So one part of our mandate is to actually advocate for an easier or a more conducive business environment. So we do this through the Office of the President and Cabinet. I know recently they've actually set up a committee to improve the ease of doing business in Zimbabwe. So we are at the center of that. We coordinate all the government ministries, departments, and agencies in ensuring that what investors are telling us, where the obstacles are, those things are being worked on. And another thing that investors also want is consistency in the way that policies and laws in the country are administered and how that affects their businesses. So we also work very closely with all the key ministries and agencies of government to ensure that there is consistency in that. And when investors do actually stumble sometimes, or they don't quite understand things, or authorities descend on them in a way that perhaps they didn't understand, the first stop for them, we always say that they should come to us. With our help, we can navigate them through the whole process in the government infrastructures.
Investor confidence is key.
The ZIDA Act is quite deliberate in that it gives a guarantee to an investor that your investment is safe in the country. I think a lot of investors want that. If you deploy your capital in a certain country, you want those assurances. So the ZIDA Act itself is an instrument that safeguards any investor against expropriation or other things that may affect that, I think their businesses. So the moment that an investor gets a ZIDA investment license, that license by its virtue is guarantee and assurance from the government of Zimbabwe that they will honor whatever pledges they've given that investor.
With the SADC summit approaching, Mr. Chinamo delivers a message to potential investors.
The SADC summit is a big event, I think, on the calendar within this region. Heads of states are going to come to this country, and along with them also there'll be many other senior government officials from all over SADC. We are also expecting a lot of business people who are looking for investment opportunities. And alongside that summit will be the SADC Industrialization Week, which is being driven by the CZI and the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. So that is something that always happens at the SADC summits. We believe that it's an opportunity for the region as a whole to showcase the opportunities for investors in our efforts to become an industrialized region. So we went a step further, and as much as that is about industrialization and speaking directly to people in the industry already, and those who want to expand or integrate as a region to bring better efficiencies and so forth. We are hosting a day before the start of that industrialization week an investment summit. So we've partnered with our fellow investment promotion agencies in the region to host this one-day event. It will be graced by Vice President Chiwenga as our guest of honor. And we're expecting many notable speakers internationally and locally who will speak about the opportunities that we believe exist within the region if we work together as a region. Because one thing that you will realize is that as Southern Africa, we are on a global scale, population-wise, scale-wise, size-wise, we are not that big. We are even smaller if we consider ourselves as single countries. But we believe that with the connectivities that we can achieve, with the resources that we have, and the strengths that we each possess in our own unique way, if that can be leveraged to bring the region together, we can achieve much, much more. I think a lot of the things that we speak about, the value chains that we speak about, the sort of raw materials or the ability to process those raw materials into value-added products, we believe that some of those things can be achieved by a single country. But if we consider it on a regional scale, it is possible that we can do some of the big things that might seem impossible for one country to achieve. So that is what we're looking forward to, and we are hoping that our investment summit will highlight and showcase other examples where we believe that opportunities exist. Perhaps we can only speak obviously from a Zimbabwean point of view where these opportunities are in Zimbabwe, but the benefit in the leveraging of other skills and resources from our neighbors can actually make these opportunities into something much, much bigger for the entire region.
Oh yes, a development happening right here in Zimbabwe within all the sectors, talk of mining, agriculture, everywhere. It's all about moving forward and really coming up with new ways to ensure that the development trajectory is not affected. And we're still with Abigail Mpambi in the building, a political analyst, helping us to unpack the speech, the acceptance speech that was made by His Excellency, and also putting into context what that means, what needs to be done, and going forward, how best the region can leverage on what has been done and said this morning. And of course, Abigail, we understand that when you talk of demography, Africa is a very youthful continent. SADC is not spared, very youthful as well. And the mantra now is on innovation, on industrialization. How can the young people, which of course are the biggest population, capitalize on this drive that the region has gone in and take on industrialization to lead it?
Thank you so very much. Yes, the young people can capitalize, but the SADC member states do capitalize more.
Mm-hmm.
This is the advantage that we must take. Every nation, its backbone in terms of labor force is the youths.
Right.
And as things stand right now here in the country, I would of course use Zimbabwe as an example. You would realize that we already have what are called innovation hubs.
Mm-hmm.
That's promoting even issues of science and technology, issues of ICT. We also want to accept that this youthful generation is actually the ICT generation.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big, big advantage. But even as we want to talk of innovation, we also want to accept certain realities that there is a gap that exists between the demands, the current industrial demands, and the skills that probably with our youths. So it is important to actually amplify the issue of skills audit, which of course in Zimbabwe we've already put in place a ministry for skills audit.
Right.
Why skills audit? You want to actually get to terms to see the gap between what we have within our labor, in the labor force, and the demands of the industry. But for us now to industrialize SADC, we now need, of course, each member state on board to accept the need for such a skills audit at SADC level. Then we are able to begin to tailor-make, of course, to guide our tertiary institutions so that they can actually provide, of course, the labor force that actually is a missing piece of the puzzle to the industry that we have today. So even as we move forward, we cannot. I once said in one of my my talks, we cannot continue to have a one-size-fits-all kind of education that is borrowed, probably that is borrowed from the East or from the West for Southern Africa, or in particular for Africa and Zimbabwe in particular.
Right.
We need to revisit those issues of the curriculum. Of course, we now have in Zimbabwe Education 5.0. I think it's a high time taking advantage of this quite a crucial position that we have been entrusted with as Zimbabwe. I think our president can influence the region into such a direction, of course, with evidence of one or two, of course, the results that we are seeing because of this brick by brick aspect, the issue of self-confidence, and of course the mantra, Nika, I want to believe that he even mentioned it in his acceptance.
Yes, he did.
speech.
He did.
SADC.
And also said SADC should be built by its own people.
Yes, so SADC will actually depend on its people, and it should be built by its own, of course, labor force. So it's a statement of confidence. It's a statement of confidence building. It's a statement of owning up responsibility. So I think we need to take things that direction, and in particular when we talk about the youths. When they remain idle, they are subject, of course, to manipulation. With issues of neo-colonialism, the issues of proxies in every country, actually, they, of course, the enemy always tap on the idle youth. We need the youth, of course, to be married to the, of course, key sectors of development. They need actually to feel the development, not to hear about it. So how are we going to drive that? Sometimes, of course, the industry has their own demands. Are we able to marry the two so that our workforce also benefit from the resources that we have? Our curriculums across Africa, even across SADC, they were deliberately made such that we don't find ourselves married or actually to our resources. You only will be talking about management. There's no innovation there. We talk about banking. What are you banking? What have you produced? So we are designed to be more of workers, and which is not bad if there is an industry. But we need some people passionately, through training, to find themselves actually envying, leading, of course, in the manufacturing, leading in innovation, leading on the ground, in owning these mines, in full context of owning. Not this issue that you own a claim, the next morning you are looking on the internet to look for a so-called investor. The president mentioned again, I think it was a warning across or even the member states to say, even as we want to talk of economic growth, even as we want to talk of investments, let this happen on our own terms. He is trying to cover such a gap. So our youth, they have got nothing much in terms of collateral. How are they going to start these, of course, businesses? How are they going? Are we going to have guarantees? Are we going to have the government backing as the guarantor of the very same use? On what security? On what terms? So I want to believe that those who took over from politics to economics, they must lead us. We are seeing the political direction. We see the knobs that here is a gap. But because of the diverse that we have, Zimbabwe termed an educated one country. Let's go to the ground. Let it be felt that indeed we are educated. Let it be seen that indeed we are educated. We cannot be running away from our own problems, failing to solve our own problems, yet we still claim that we are educated. It means either we need to revisit our education system and, of course, probably baptize ourselves in some form of real education that will take us out of problems.
Revisiting the education system, and Zimbabwe has done exactly that, changing from 3.0 to 5.0, where now it's all about innovation and industrialization. And let's get back, Abigail, to talk about one of the precursor meetings of the summit that is being held currently in the new parliament building. we know there was that industrialization week, and His Excellency said there is need to capitalize on what the industrialization week offered. These are not just to be maybe talk about this company doing A, B, C, D, this company doing another thing. How best can the Zimbabwean industry leverage on such platforms meaningfully to ensure that our industry also begins to develop on another trajectory, focusing on SADC region?
Well, I think our industry has been given an open check, a platform to showcase, a platform to interact, a platform to market and sell what they have, a platform especially in hospitality to even demonstrate what they are able to do. So from the industrialization week to date, people are still actually trading. I want to believe those silent mega deals are actually coming out. So going forward, you must be able to measure if this is actually have any positive impact into the national purse. Because at the end of the day, all done and finished, we want to see a change into the national purse. The Minister of Finance next budget must be able to show us that indeed we held SADC.
So should the response therefore be also reflecting that following the SADC industrialization week, this and this happened, and therefore it's including. So do you feel that we need to really be focusing on doing an analysis, a research on the impact of the industrialization week?
Indeed, if we fail to do that, then we'll be wondering, maybe there's something we need to change. We cannot just proceed to say, oh, this helped us. How? We want to be able to measure. For me, with the summary, I just need also to look at the national purse. Because all being happening, we actually got a platform as tourism players. We got a platform as business. We got even a public lecture actually to also energize ourselves and to give us a policy direction. To this day, we saw the revamp of infrastructure. We saw a number of preparations that happened. Will this actually culminate into something positive for the country? Will this energize Zimbabwe and SADC going forward with all the preparations? Will this change actually the bank balances of the companies themselves? We must be able to have economists actually guiding us. We have to analyze, not for the benefit of only wanting to hear, but so that when we have got a gap, we should actually quickly revisit and say, where did we go wrong? We must be able to get to terms with that going forward. So for me, I think I want to believe what I saw in the industrialization week, it was quite a busy, I visited a busy week. We saw a number of interactions. We saw actually the companies, big companies, even medium-sized and even, of course, small and medium enterprises, given an opportunity to showcase transacting. So for me, I want to believe that this has got a bigger impact on the national purse at the end of the day.
Interactions you saw at the SADC industrialization week, you say it's one thing to interact, it's another thing to meaningfully interact so that you get to contribute to the national purse. Like she rightfully said, to those who are just joining us, it is the live broadcast of the SADC Summit. Our 44th are currently happening as we speak. The heads of state are still within the closed door sessions as they are deliberating on various issues, and later on we'll be crossing back to our team in Mount Upton to give us proceedings as we get to hear and understand what has been discussed. But currently the business of the summit is what is taking place in the closed door sessions. But we continue with the discussions to understand more in terms of how best can the SADC region leverage on this, and also moving forward, what needs to be done by ordinary Zimbabweans to see and feel the change right here. And we've been joined by a political analyst, Abigail Mpambi, to really unpack these issues. Abigail, thank you so much for coming through right here on ZBC TV. Your last words to Zimbabweans who are watching you this afternoon.
Oh, thank you so very much. My last words is just SADC is for us, the citizens of SADC. It can only be us who can transform it positively, the direction that we want. No one else.
No one else. It's all about us. Those are the words coming through from Abigail Mpambi. And of course, talking of the Zimbabwe that we want, let's get to see this one, Zimbabwe at a glance. Just take a look and appreciate the beauty of Zimbabwe in this clip. Zimbabwe at a glance indeed. If you've never traveled, surely that clip must have motivated you to move around your own country so that you get to appreciate various holiday destinations, and you get to see the beauty of this kind. And of course, tourism, the industry that needs really to be developed for us to benefit as a nation. And of course, the conversation is around SADC all together for the regional bloc to continue developing. And it is the live broadcast of the 44th Heads of State SADC Summit currently happening right here in the capital city. And as we speak, the Heads of State are in a closed door session. They are currently having their deliberations, policy issues, talking about what needs to be done, how the region can develop, among other issues. And later on, we'll be able to have a feedback session where our media will be allowed into these doors and understand what was being discussed. And of course, right here in the studio, we have been speaking to Abigail Mpambi, a political analyst, who was helping us to unpack issues around the speech, the acceptance speech by His Excellency, to really unpack issues around how best is he going to lead the region, what needs to be done by other countries to support, and how Zimbabwe is a central and also key to supporting his chairmanship. Bengani, our guest spoke at length in terms of implementation being the key. A lot of plans, a lot of strategic plans by the region have been made, but now the next step must be action to see this come to fruition.
Njengokutsho ukhulunyilwe lapha phambilini ngokade khangela ikakhulu ngendaba zezombusazwe, ukhulumile njalo ngenhlelo okumele ezabekwayo esithi kuqakathekile ukuthi zinjani zigcwalisiswe. Sikhangela njalo izinto ezifana le SADC free trade area zones lezi ziqakathekile ukuthi zithuthukise ikakhulu kunotho yamazwe akunhlanganiso ze-SADC. Nxa sikhangela ukuthengiselana, nxa abantu besenelisa ukuthengisela ngaphandle kwelizwe, besenelisa ukuhamba ungelamngcele khona, ungela ama-passports abe efunakala, zonke lezi izinto okumele zibe yizo ezigcwalisiswayo zenziwe yena.
And of course, it is important that the SADC countries will get to understand what exactly can be done by the next country to benefit their own people. You said issues around traveling, making it easy for country A to trade with country B. And they've seen the excellencies coming through. They seem to be supporting the agenda. They seem to be all agreeing in terms of that. But implementation becomes key. And His Excellency said, we cannot look for implementers elsewhere. Like his mantra is always saying, and he also mentioned that mantra to say SADC is only developed by people who reside in SADC. And going forward, we need to maximize on the skills we have and also look at industrialization, which is, of course, key as we go forward. Innovation and industrialization are the new talking points now.
Ian karatikalinga inyaya jino chokuta akale nokutiwa kwemishingo atilinga akale kuti zubia tina nazo zinowanika mshango ya Zimbabwe zose zinoshanganisa indalama gold zolosiyana ne lithium inowanika mashango losiyana akale tilinga tourism kwa feno ikumukubuka ku shango ngase Eswatini kwa feno zose zunu yozu tukoti isu abana be shango ye Africa kasa abamudunuli ya SADC kuti tibe tinobona kuti zose yozu zungata chini kubuza ibudiliro tilinga mishingo ikumubatwa akuti kuna bulongwa bukumutiwa education 5.0 inoleba akale kuti zose zinowanika mushango toko tibeto zinozushingisa ukonkesi okutholakala elizweni kusetshenziswa education 5.0 ekhuluma ngokwenziwa kwemisebenzi kuvela kulwazi esulawo konke lokho kukhala ukuthi kungasiphathisa athina njengamazwe akunhlanganiso ye SADC.
And talking of industrialization, tomorrow the heads of state will have a chance to move around the capital city, and one of the destinations is the Geopomona West venue where there's been so much transformation. Previously it used to be a road that you'd want to avoid, but now you'd want to pass through, seeing the beauty and of course understanding that there is more production happening. How best can the region, maybe just looking at issues around investment in projects like the Geopomona one moving forward, what do you think needs to be done looking at what has been said by His Excellency?
Sikhangela lokho okwenziwa umongameli welizwe, siyakhangela njalo ukuthi kulapho thatha amazwi ukulo ingcithi kade khuluma ngezombusazwe ukuthi ukwenziwa kwemisebenzi iZimbabwe ekwenziweni komsebenzi nxa sikhangela ukuthi bazama ukulungisa amagetsi ukuvela ezintweni eziyabe zilahliwe Ian konke lokho kuveza ukuthi abantu bayasebenzisa ingqondo zabo, basebenzisa ulwazi lwabo ekuthuthiseni inotho yelizwe okuyinto okumele ikhangelwe njalo ifundwe ngabanye abakunhlanganiso ye-SADC bekhangela ubuhle lalokho osuthe kwenziwa kusetshenziswa ulwazi lwabantwana beZimbabwe Ian.
And of course, we will not stop but continue the conversation right here on ZBC TV. Remember, you can also follow us on our social media platforms, ZBC News Online, Facebook, as well as X, previously known as Twitter. You can get to like and share your comments with us right there, as you also anticipate that shortly we will be crossing over to Mount Upton to get more proceedings, to get more understanding of what was being discussed in the closed door sessions that the heads of state are currently in. They have been there for a while now, and we do anticipate that we get to have a comprehensive discussion around that. Our team is on standby in Mount Upton, but of course we'll be crossing over to them a little bit later on. For now, we take a short break. Don't you go anywhere. More live programming is coming right here on ZBC.